Well, the NFL coaching carousel, the cycle, it's a lot like dating. And if you're waiting for the perfect candidate, you're going to have a lot of competition. And if Robert Saleh looks like the perfect candidate to the 49ers, he may just turn out to be somebody else's perfect candidate too. It's like one of those internet memes that's going around. 6'4", blue eyes, works in finance. Well, there's a lot of competition for 6'4", blue eyes, works in finance. And Robert Saleh, 6'4", blue eyes, works in finance. And I think one of the challenges for the 49ers, let's say this first. It's a dangerous game they're playing. It's a very dangerous game they're playing. If you are waiting around for the perfect match and other people are in competition with you for that perfect match and you don't get it, and that's all you're going to hold out for. You only have a plan A, which I love. It sounds great sometimes. Oh, I only got a plan A. Failure's not an option. Well, you're offering a defensive coordinator job, and maybe the Jaguars are going to offer a head coaching job. Robert Saleh is going to interview with the Jags on Friday. The 49ers should be terrified about that. Why? Because he's going to interview well. He interviewed well the first time. Oh, but it's the Jags job. Why would he take the Jags job? Here's what we know about NFL coaches. When given the chance to take a head coaching job, they take it. It pays way more money, and you're in total control. If you're Robert Saleh, you're thinking, what? I'm going to go be Cal's defensive coordinator next year and then get offered what job exactly? What job? It's easy to just shoo away the Jags job. I don't think it's a great job. It's proving not to be a great job. But most of the jobs that come open, it's rare that just some amazing, even the Bears, excuse me, not the Browns. Even the Bears. It's Caleb. It's a number one. Like last year, if that job had come open last year, people would be like, oh, my God, is this the best job to come along in generations? And they had to break the bank, apparently, whatever that means, to pay Ben Johnson to come take that job. So the 49ers have a major problem here. Jeff Ulbrich, who they would have been falling over themselves with joy if they could have hired Jeff Ulbrich away from the Jets last year. Jeff Ulbrich, gone, took the Falcons job. Dennis Allen, very good defensive coach, gone. He's going with Ben Johnson to Chicago. So the Niners are not getting their second choice or their third choice. The choice they could get, and how real is it? Let's get to that in a second. But first, I want to tell you that this video is brought to you by PrizePicks. Use the PrizePicks link down in the description, or just go to PrizePicks.com. Use the code GUY. When you use the code GUY, you put $5 in. You make a $5 lineup. You immediately will get $50 deposited into your account, whether you win or lose, just by making that $5 lineup with the code GUY. Here's a great lineup you can make with your $5. Right now this weekend, look at the discount on Jaden Daniels. That's a gimme. More than half a passing yard. So that's a special right now at PrizePicks. So I put in $5. I'm going to combine half a passing yard, Jaden Daniels, with Saquon, more than half a rushing or receiving touchdown. Josh Allen, more than half a rushing or receiving touchdown. And I'm going to go Scary Terry, 65.5 receiving yards. Honestly, just the top three, you could take just Jaden, Saquon, Josh, put in 5 and make 25. You're going to take your 50 that you're going to get as an automatic bonus, and you're going to have $75 in the account. So PrizePicks, code GUY, PrizePicks, code GUY. Go check it out right now. So if they don't get Salah, Mike Silver tweeted at somebody, well, Brandon Staley would make a good candidate. Like, it could be Brandon Staley. He actually said it more directly than he could make a good candidate. He said it could be Brandon Staley. Now, we know that would not be what the Niners want. And the reason we know that the Niners don't want to hire Brandon Staley and that they would be hiring somebody they don't want to hire and then saying that it's somebody they do want to hire is because they've had two chances. They've had two chances to hire Brandon Staley, and just because they like him, right? The first time was last year. Instead, they hired Nick Sorensen with no defensive coordinator experience. I liked the hire. I was hopeful about the hire. It didn't work. They were obviously hopeful about it because they hired him over Brandon Staley. Now, they spend a year with Brandon Staley. If we're going to go back to the dating analogy, they spend a year with Brandon Staley, and they decide, Nick Sorensen's not the guy. Oh, well, who else could be the guy? Well, not Brandon either, because they could have hired him. Here's the thing. They're not worried about somebody else hiring him. That much is clear. Otherwise, they would have moved quickly if they loved him. I think they hoped that somebody else would hire him, and then they'd hire Robert Saleh, and they wouldn't have to not bring Brandon back. If they hired somebody else, what would have happened is that Brandon Staley would have been like, I had a good year with the Niners, and the Niners would have said, we had a good year with Brandon Staley, and he would have moved on. And everyone would have just pretended like, we just planned for him to only be here for a year. That's all it was. They don't want to hire him. They don't want to hire him. The fact that Silver said that is alarming. I got a text from a buddy yesterday who's going to hear this, who's a big Niner fan and works in the NFL, and he said in broadcasting, and he's a huge Niner fan. He said, "Please tell me this is not true." And I said, "It's not true. They do not want to hire Brandon Staley, but you got to acknowledge that the situation with Robert Saleh is pretty scary. And when you wait around for perfect, and then everyone's got a chair, and there's only one chair left, you got to take the chair. This would be a major miscalculation and failure, given that we know, because they tried to do it last year, they would be happy with Jeff Ulbrich. Here's the thing about Jeff Ulbrich. If you hire Jeff Ulbrich, he's probably not getting a head coaching job in 3 years. If you hire Robert Saleh, he is. So it's very possible that even if Robert Saleh doesn't get the Jags job, the Niners are right back in this position again. And I got to tell you, I think it's pretty possible he gets the Jags job. If you're the Jags, you go, well, the Jets are, boy, the Jets, what a mess those guys are, right? No, you got Balky there, and obviously Salah knows about Balky because everybody knows about Balky, but Salah's with the 49ers, so he really knows. He's heard. If he wants information about Balky, he can easily get information about Balky. But I could see if you're Robert, you look around, you go, why did I fail in New York? I failed in New York because I never got a quarterback. It wasn't because I couldn't coach defense. It wasn't because we didn't get players. It's because I couldn't get a quarterback. And I know you might be thinking, oh, well, is Trevor Lawrence a quarterback, really? Think about this for a second, okay? Project out. You're Saleh's agent. You're like, Robert, I think you should take this Jags job. And Robert goes, I don't know. Maybe I should wait for the next cycle. And you're the agent. You go, okay, Robert, let's talk about the next cycle. What's the next job that could open? Tennessee next year? Let's just say it's 2025 season is gone. Come and gone. And it went like the 2024 season. So what jobs are opening? Huh? Pittsburgh? Maybe, but maybe not. Do you really want to follow Mike Tomlin? I mean, it's a great franchise. No quarterback. What other job might open? The Raiders, another one and done guy? Cleveland? I mean, Stefanski's a really good coach if he can't win there. Tennessee? The Giants? The Giants job could open. You want to go back to New York? Carolina, I guess, could open. Maybe. Is that a better job than the Jags job? No. Arizona? That's potentially a good job, but doesn't feel like that one's a year away from opening. Atlanta's not opening. Seattle's not opening. Atlanta's sneaky would be a good job if that opened. If we go through the year and Michael Penix has a good year. Tampa, maybe. Sean McVay says, you know what, I am going to go do TV. And the Rams job opens and Stafford retires and they both leave together. But these are the jobs. There's some other version. 5 jobs will open next year, and it'll be jobs like the job. Every once in a while, something opens. That's amazing. But for the most part, it's not. It's not a bunch of amazing stuff. And so I don't think it's that crazy for Robert Saleh to be attracted to the Jags job, and I don't think it's that crazy for the Jags. When you're in the position of the Jags, who are you often hiring? You're either hiring guys who've never been head coaches before, or now they did hire Doug, who just won a championship semi-recently. But you're hiring your pool is like unproven guys or older guys that maybe are getting a second shot. I can see how Robert Saleh would be a very attractive candidate to them very quickly. And if that happens, the Niners have really screwed themselves. In a year where they actually hit the offseason, some of you may think this is crazy, but understand what I'm saying. at 6-11, disastrous and disappointing season, they actually kind of hit the offseason not with momentum, but something that's kind of like momentum. Like a big exhale and a full reset. I remember one time, several years ago, I was flying from New York to San Francisco. I had hung out the night before late. I'd gone to a steakhouse really late. And I remember when we ordered steaks, and when my steak came, my buddy Aaron said, "That looks like it's been cooked and reheated." He's like, "Look at the grill marks, like they're gray." It was dark. I'm just like, whatever, I'm hungry. So I ate that steak. Next morning, it's probably like a 6 a.m. It's a pre-dawn flight in the East, okay? I'm in the Uber, and I'm like, I start getting queasy. Anyway, get on the plane, blah, 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 food poisoning, awful flight, the flight from hell. Like the person sitting next to me called the flight attendant because they hadn't seen me in so long because I was in the bathroom barfing. At some point, I get up, I get back to my seat, I then get up, I go back to the flight attendant to ask for some ice, and the next thing I know, I wake up on the ground. I passed out on the plane. Luckily, the flight attendant was right there. She was like, you hit your head pretty hard. I said, "How long was I out?" She said, about 2 seconds. I had this distinct feeling of, like, between the pass out and the wake up, like right before I woke up, I felt my body completely reset. I know it sounds weird, but I felt like it that queasiness completely went away, and I cooled down. Like I was so hot, I completely cooled down, and it was just like this hard reset, and it worked. And it was a miserable flight. But after the hard reset, there was a doctor and a nurse on the plane, and they were checking up. I felt amazing. It was so crazy. So that's what this that's what the season ending, and like this whole, well, at least we are fresh now for 2025, and we have a chance to just breathe. Obviously, we'd rather be in the playoffs or playing for Super Bowl, and we're not, but we can at least breathe. And they're going to waste all that misery of not making the playoffs because they waited too long to hire the guy they want, or they waited for the perfect guy. And then they're going to end up in the same position as they were last year and the year before, not hiring when the full pool is available and not getting the person they really want. Just know this right now. If they hire Brandon Staley, they've had 2 chances to hire Brandon Staley. They didn't do it. They don't want to hire Brandon Staley. So if they hire Brandon Staley, they are hiring somebody they don't want to hire, which is part of why I think they're not going to do it. But who are they going to hire? It's crazy. Oh, it's crazy.